Hello, good day everyone. So for today we will go over discourse analysis. No? So this will be our first one today, or this is our first meeting or first topic for today. No? So what is discourse analysis? So discourse analysis is, let's say, the study of language and use as a goal of education, a means of education, and an instrument of social control and social change. So it is the principal concern of applied linguistics. So it is easy to say nga no, nga ang discourse analysis is a vital play in the work of applied linguistics because again it is how the language used to communicate, no? And why so much of that work has been done over the last few decades. Developing theories and practices of discourse analysis have been applied to linguists. So, discourse analysis came from Wikipedia. Ang ilahapon kon is, it is a general term for a number of approaches to analyzing written, not just written but spoken, also signed languages, use or any significant semiotic event, meaning that serves us or anything that serves us to communicate with one another. No, an event where you communicate with other people. So we take or give information or again just glances because again sign language is part of it, man. So we take primarily linguistic approach to the analysis of discourse that's based from Brown and Yule. And we have Stubb. So Stubb is also concerned with language used in social context, meaning there are social context, social events where you communicate with other people, and in particular in interaction or dialogue between speakers. It is sometimes defined as beyond the sentence, meaning not you are not just, let's say, focusing on the sentence itself, but its overall meaning, the way it was constructed, the way it was spoken, and then what will be your initial reaction. No? So there are actually discourse is language above the sentence level. So meaning sentence level na na siya emotions, right? So discourse is more than just language use. And discourse constitutes the social, distinguished knowledge, social relations, and social identity as well. The analysis of discourse is the analysis of language and use, meaning explain or gisabot nato ang language, no? So language as an instrument of communication whose expression is discourse. The analysis of the functions of language can be referred to as the discourse analysis. So, discourse analysis is an increasingly popular and important area of language study. It discusses not only about language itself, but also how it relates with society, not just society, culture, and also the thought of the speaker. It is used to describe activities in several disciplines such as linguistics, social linguistics, and psycholinguistics. Meaning, linguistic itself, it's mainly or it's not just how the language was used or how it was spoken. No, overall na siya. No, there are three approaches that are presented in this lesson. They include the speech act theory, ethnographic of communication, and pragmatics. So the speech act theory, according to Austin, it focuses on communicative acts which are performed through speech. The speech act theory is applicable to discourse analysis because it provides a framework in which to identify the conditions underlying the productions and understanding of an utterance as a particular or as a particular linguistically realized action. Meaning, kay na may istorya na action na ay na-receive na amang na encoder or na speaker na sa receiver which has feedbacks as well. So this concept was proposed by John Langshaw Austin in 1962 and later developed by both was philosophers of language. So they believe that language is not only used to inform or to describe things, it is often used to do things or to perform the acts that was or to perform the acts that was spoken. So in other words, action performed via utterance are generally called speech acts. So meaning, ganing speech acts, they have through three, no? Ato na i-explain one by one. Because again, ang speech act man good is it's not just how you say things, but the reaction on how you say things as well. Let's go over locutionary or locutionary. So locutionary act is the basic act of utterance or producing a meaningful linguistic expression. So it's mainly about the words that you are about to express. So we can say performing an act or saying something or physical utterance of words. So the act of saying something with a specific meaning. So action or saying specific words that contemplates more action to the receiver. So when someone says it's cold in here, the locutionary act is the utterance of the sentence itself, producing the sound and the words that mean the room is cold, meaning ang iyahang act before siya nagstorya. When you go over elocutionary act naman, it is the real action which are performed by the utterance, meaning utterance is the speaker. So we form an utterance with some kind of function in mind. Those utterance or the words that we have. And then, na siya function sa aton mind. So every utterance that we say, na siya function, na siya meaning. Diba? So this communicative force of an utterance is known as elocutionary force. So it is the intention or the desire of the speaker. So elocutionary act are the real actions which are performed by the utterance. So when someone says, can you pass the salt? Ang kuana na niya, ang locutionary act is the one kanang asking or in the speaker's ability to pass the salt. And then, making the request. Pag storya na niya na, can you please pass the salt? Mauna siya elocutionary act. Kay nanakay na word or nanakay na utter nga words ana niya. No? And then, the last one would be the perlocutionary act. So, kanisha is the effect produced on the listener when they listen to locutionary act, or this is the hearer's response, meaning feedback na sa elocutionary. So, it is the act or the effect that the speaker words have on the listeners. So, if a speaker says, there's a spider on your shoulder, ang kani iya kani niya nga storya is mo na elocutionary, no, pagstorya niya mo na elocutionary mo to ang the listener ang iya ng feedback, iya ng reaction, that's per locutionary. Hope that clears to everyone. That's speech act theory, no? Okay, so that's the speech act theory. Okay, with you when you say speech act theory, na siya tulo. The first one would be locutionary. Dayon, locutionary that actually is the thought, no? Or saying the thought and saying the sentence, or the thought before saying the sentence. And then we have the locutionary, mo ni siya ang iyang gistorya jud. Okay? Mauna siya ang iyahang like the request or the command mo na siya elocutionary, meaning na kay gidispense nga mga words. And when you say perlocutionary, it's about feedback, okay, kung unsa ang reaction with regards to the elocutionary act. So we'll have the second one is the ethnography of communication. I think ethnography of communication is the approach to discourse which is based on linguistics and anthropology. When you say anthropology, guys, the it is the study of human societies and cultures and their development. So let's say anthropology, it actually based or it talks about history, the study of how human societies develop throughout the years. That's anthropology. So this approach tries to analyze the patterns of communicative practices, and such practices are an integrated part of what one knows and does as a member of a particular culture. Meaning, unsa day ang unsa day paagi of communication in that certain culture, in that certain ethnicity, in that certain society. So it differs the ay sa lahi-lahi nga society that you are in, ang ilahang way of communication, and that's part of discourse analysis as well, no? So Himes has proposed a methodology used to discover communicative events and acts to classify those components, then discover the patterns formed by interrelationships among components. The classificatory grid he proposed is known as the speaking grid, no, which can be used to discover a local or cultural relative taxonomy of communicative units. So, mingon gani kag speaking, here it is. The first one is S. So, it talks about the setting and the scene. So, what is the time and place of the interaction? So, like for example, very specific siya ha. Kay setting and scene man siya. So, time and place, meaning a classroom at 10 a.m. or a festive birthday party. No? Meaning naa unsa jud ay scene dito, unsay naa ato dito nga lugar, or unsay kanang kalingawan dito, mingon kag Asinolog Festival. That's actually one way. Unsa na mao na siya usa ka component sa ethnography communication, no? So, the second one is the participant. Kinsa may speaker, kinsa may listener, kinsa may audience. Listener and audience, it's the same thing. So, for example, a teacher and students or two friends chatting. No, it's usapod na sa makapekto sa ethnographic communication. We have ends. So, what is the purpose or goals and outcomes of the communication? Unsang day padulngan aning istorya? Is it to actually give information? Is it to persuade someone? Is it just to communicate with someone? No? Banter from one another, that's one. No? So kani act sequence. So when you say act sequence, it's the form and order of the event, what is said and how it's structured. For example, kani ang iyang structure no kay a greeting, question, response, and goodbye. Muna siya act sequence. Unsa day nahitabo ato. So, chronological ba siya? Muna siya kuan sa act sequence. So, kasagaran, mauman siya ni normal no, nga mga structures. When you go over communicate with someone, no? Magkuan ka, hoy, may hapon. And then question, okay ra ka? Okay ra ko. Sige, you will banter with one another and then goodbye. No? Muna siya act sequence. Giunsa. No? Unsay nahitabo man na siya act sequence. We have key. So ang kaning key, it is the tone, manner, or spirit of the communication. Unsa man ni siya? Serious topic ba ni siya? Sarcastic or humorous ra ba ni siya? Or informal or formal ba ni siya nga topic? That's key. Okay? Again, when you say key gani, tone, manner, or spirit of communication, unsa daay tonon ani nang istorya sila? No? Nang libak na sila, okay, that's actually kanang unsa man nila pagpanlibak, giseryoso ba nila, or it's just humorous lang, like nag-joke lang sila, no? That's it. So we have instrumentalities. So it is the forms and channels of communication. Unsa man ni, face to face ba ning nahitabo, or through chat ba ni, through text ba ni, through email, through letter. That's instrumentalities. Okay? We have norms. So norms is the social rules about what is appropriate and what is not. So taking turns in conversation, politeness, I kanin siyang koan kay eye contact mo na siya social rules, norms. Unsa man di ay standard nga buhaton or communicating with someone. No? Is it okay to turn your back while someone is talking? No, it's not. Tama na siya mga norms, mga rules, mga standard when you communicate with one another. And that's part of ethnography communication. And then we have the genre. The genre is the type of speech, act, or event. So unsa day genre ani Di ba? So, unsa ni lecture ba ni siya? Joke? A story ba ni siya? Prayer, interview, or debate? No, unsa day padulngan sa inyo ha? It's not actually, let's say, dili sad siya purpose ha? Again, dyan na kung unsa ni nga, let's say, dili sad siya key. Because when you go over key sad, kani, it's something about the emotions man. No? It's something that actually comes with your emotion. What is the emotion that you have, both of you have, or the audience and the speaker have while doing the communication? Sa genre pod is unsa din ni inyong gisuturyaan. What is that topic all about? Is it a lecture? Is it a joke? Is it a story, a prayer, interview, or a debate? No, that's actually the ethnographic communication. Muna siya grade speaking. So when you talk about ethnography of communication, na siya speaking grade. And speaking grade, this is it. Okay. So let's talk over pragmatic. Again, we have three character, three chapters for this one to go over discourse analysis. Now, for a while, huh? Okay, so when you go over pragmatic, okay, so when you go over pragmatics, guys, it's actually very, kung ano mga pragmatics, no? Very broad, dako jud siya component. So we have the notion of pragmatics. So according to Faho, 1993, pragmatic is a study of the use of context to make inference about meaning. So meaning, it is about how you interact, how you say words, and how they interpret it. So there is a communication to how they interpret your words that was spoken. That is pragmatic. So it is another broad approach to discourse. So pragmatics has a broader example for communication. So naa siya'y makaingon kag some are psycholinguistics aspects. Moreover, discourse analysis. Kay ngano tako magud broad man jud kay ang pragmatics. So we'll just go over with this one nganong connected siya sa discourse analysis because again, it is the use of context to make inferences about meaning. No? Pragmatics is actually ang iyahapon ko ano sa speaking, um, the speaker meaning about it, or the pragmatic concerns speech acts and what people can infer from language but it is not said. So meaning implicator lang, pre, ah, presuppos, ah, presuppositions lang for indirect speech act. So meaning, when you go over speech act, it's not just about, again, pragmatics and speech act, these three interacts or, yes, overlaps one another and that's fine. Okay? Lahi-lahi man gud sila og let's say lahi-lahi sila mga way to describe the discourse analysis, no? So, kani siya but generally concerned with choices in individual utterance to how an individual utter words and how one explains its meanings and not patterns of choices throughout a discourse. Any speaker meaning based on the concept of Christ speaker. Any speaker, unsa di meaning any speaker is what the speaker intends to communicate needs not be related to conventional meaning at all. So it means that speaker meaning may be inferred through a process quite different from the encoding and decoding and processes assumed by code mode of communication. Meaning lahi-lahi juday. Well, so speaker may be inferred through process quite different na, from the encoding and the coding. And we have the cooperative principle. So the first concept that we're going to discuss before we talk about cooperative principle is implicator. Ano saan din yung implicator? So implicator is an implication or suggestion deduced from the form of utterance. So pag ikakastorya na na side ay mo na siya. That's part of it. No? So a conversational implicator uses the cooperative principle which govern the efficiency of the communication. Meaning with cooperative principle, nag-abot na ang imong utterance ug ang imuhang kuan, let's say imong utterance og ang imuhang kanang, let's say, body language. That's cooperative principle. So in other words, implicator is an inference about speaker's intention which arises from a recipient's use of both semantic meanings and conversational principles. So according to Grice, cooperative principles, it simply means people engaged in conversation will say something suitable at that moment, no, at that point of development of the talk. He divided it into a set of conversational maxims and sub-maxims. So, ang kanipod, ang ilahang kuan sa maxims and sub-maxims kay, pero okay lang. So, ang kuan aning maxims and sub-maxims is how people can interpret, no? Unsa man dining mga maxims, unsa man dining mga kuan. Ang maxims in action is the speaker A, or how mo ingon dito ang speaker nga. How do I get to Sensberg mate? Meaning, ang iyang kuan is kaya bitong nangutana. And then, mingon dayon ang nakicommunication niya. Go ahead. Go straight ahead, turn right at the school, then left at the bus stop on the hill. So speaker A assumes that B believes his direction to be genuine. So the maxim of quality. No? Motoy na kuan. So natay maxims, ang kasaganan aning maxims for a while ako i-share with the other one. So here, no, wait for a while lang, ha, para mas, okay. So kani siya, Grice's logic of conversation. So the conversation works even if we don't say what we mean, no? What it works so well fascinated philosopher Paul Grice. He wondered about conversations such as this. For example, there is Jack and Lily. So we've got a mountain to climb, so it's better than a slap in the face. Unsa ti pasabot ani, but both Jack and Lily, they know what it meant because again, the conversation about them, it's actually normal to have that kind of conversation. So, kani, make your contribution such as it is required at the stage of at which it occurs by the accepted purpose of direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. So, this translates into four maxims. We have the quality, the quantity, and the manner or relation. So, ang kananing, sorry. So, ang kananing quality, ang manner, and then ang quantity, ang relation. So, let's talk about quality. So, do not say what you believe to be false. Do not say that for which you lack evidence. So when someone speaks to us, we assume that that what they say is not knowingly untruthful. No? So, meaning that the truthfulness of what they say does not need to be made stated because, again, that's part or that's just how it works. No? Makicommunicate ka. Bisag tinanaway lang jud siguro sa imuhang kauban, sa imuhang best friend. You came to understand what they talked about, even just a single glance. No? So, ang maxim, the maxims of quality is make your contribution as informative as is required. Dahil, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Then the maxim of quality. The maxim, do not say what you believe to be false or do not say that for which you lack adequate evidence. And then we have the maxim of relation, be relevant. Dapat importante, relevant ra jud imong istorya. Then the maxim of manner is to avoid obscurity of expression, avoid ambiguity, be brief, and be orderly. So, ang quality siya, mao ni siya. Dara. So, ang quality, number one, maxim niya. The maxim of quality is for you not to believe or do not say what you believe to be false. And do not say and do not say that for which you lack of evidence. So when someone speaks to us, we assume, if ever first encounter na nato, that what they say is not knowingly untruthful because we see everything nga murag okay, mao man imong istorya nako. Mao na akong nasabtan, mao na akong tuuhan. That's quality. So that the truthfulness of what they say does not need to be made stated. So the quantity naman is do not make your contribution more informative than is required. So when someone speaks to us, we assume they do not purposely hold back anything that is important. So do not give more information that is asked. Unsa gipangutana mo ra sa ihatag, no? Manner naman said is be brief, be orderly. So when someone speaks to us, we assume that what they say is being said as straightforwardly as they can say it. Manner man. So the manner should be brief, orderly. Kung sa kung gipangutanan, diha ra mismo. No? Mora sa na ang quantity pod is dili ka magkuan murag walay point ba nga i-hold back nimo. Relevant. So very relevant lang. Let's kuan lang ana sa relevance. So when someone speaks to us, we assume that what they say is relevant to the conversation. Importante. So in short, ang kuan na jud sa Grecian maxim is ang iyahang, let's say, rule, no? Or yung pagtanaw sa conversation is you need to be true, you need to be brief, you need to be clear, and you need to be very relevant. Be true. When you say true, naana siya sa quality. When you say for one, lara, lara. So when you be true, that's actually quality. And then we have quantity for the be brief, and then we have kanisha manner, no? Manner if may man kag be clear, and then be relevant. So these maxims ensure that conversation is maximally efficient, rational, and cooperative. It also ensures that we understand the conversation that we are having. Dili kay laghan pa kay pasiot-siot. That's what Grecian maxim that's in. So, mo ni siya. So, maxims in action. Diba? How do I get to Sainsbury, mate? So, go straight ahead, turn right. And, ang speaker A, ang si B believes his direction to be genuine. That's the maxim of quality. Meaning, diba, be true. Ang quality. So, nagtuo ra siya nga true ang istorya ni B. So, ni A. So, kay ning hatag man dahil siya, nagtuo siya ba nga, kahibaw si B sa padulngan dito. Kahibaw siya siguro sa lugar, di ba? Mo yun ako. So, B believes that information to be sufficient. Nagtuo siya nga, master na, so that's quantity. So, also, he believes that his directions are to Sainsbury. So, that's a maxim of relevance. No? You can choose to ignore the maxims usually to create a particular effect. Like for example, violate, so be intentionally misleading. Dili siya mauunta ang point sa inyong conversation, but you tend to oversway it. You have opt-out, so refuse to cooperate with the conversation that you have. Ang utana ani gitubag ingon ani, that's refuse to cooperate, that's opt-out. And that's naputay flout, so be intentionally ironic or sarcastic. So dara. Joke. So not too bright, that particular lad. A salesman found him sitting on the doorstep one day. Is your mother at home, Sonny? So yes, replied the boy. So the salesman knocked on the wood for a few minutes, then tried ringing the bell. Finally, he resorted to bashing on the window. Well, to no avail. I thought you said your mother was at home. He snapped at the boy. She is. Only this isn't her house, no? So, misleading siya because again, wala man siya manner, wala pa siya quality. 'Di ba? Kay nagkuan siya misleading, kanang nag-create na noon siya confusion. If he or if the boy replied, yes, she is at home, but this is not her home. At the first time, di ta tumakuan. But sayop sad ang iyahang sayop sad iyahang the way nagtubag kay nagtuo man sad ang bata, ang salesman ang bata nagtuo sad nga kahibaw ang salesman kung asa ilaha, 'di ba? So that's the effect of not following the maxim. That's more of it, no? So, yeah. So why do we need to study discourse analysis? So as a linguist, no? Linguist man jud ta padong ani to find out how or makuan man sa ta dapat na nakahibaw unsa ni mga linguist or we tend to be connected with those linguists to find out how language works to improve our understanding of an important kind of human activity. But as educators, we it is for us to find out how good text works so that we can focus on teaching our student this writing or speaking strategies to inform or to give them information how to properly make a conversation with their students, how to, let's say, kanang give out relevant topics na lang, no? So as a critical analyst, it is to discover meanings in the text which are not obvious on the surface in a deeper meaning, no? So analyzing a politician's speech to see their let's say preconceptions muna siya kuan sa discourse analysis. And why do we need to study that? So that's actually the end of our meet or lesson for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and I hope you guys did learn a thing or two. We will be having an activity or an examination on Tuesday. So, see you guys on Tuesday. Goodbye for now.